Hello, welcome to not really another lesson, but a worksheet video. So the first thing I would recommend you do is to try this yourself, okay? And again, this is mixed practice. It's just extra practice on what we've done so far. There's one subtraction, one addition, and one multiplication and division. So let's get right into it. You do not need to watch this video. You can try this practice yourself. You can see what you get, and hopefully you'll get it right in the end. Maybe I should give you the final answers for these first. So I'm just going to jot down the final answers so that you can see if you can get this right. Okay, so the first one, that's the answer. The second one, that's the answer. And the third one, that's our answer. I can probably keep those there, there's no harm. Let's start working through these. If you get them and you had no trouble, you don't need to watch this video. If you do have trouble, well, I just figured this would be a nice little bonus for you. First things first, this is a subtraction. I need to get an LCD, all right? When you see subtraction or addition, you should get LCD. We can't get the LCD yet until it's factored. So let's factor it, and the LCD should make itself somewhat obvious to us. None of these can factor so far, but the bottom of that second fraction or denominator can be definitely factored. It might take you a second. Two numbers that multiply to make 42 and add to make negative 13. If you take some time, you should see it's negative 6 and negative 7. Now that it's factored, we can do our LCD. Hopefully you're getting better at the LCD. We can see that each of them share an x minus 6. So x minus 6 is definitely part of this LCD, but the second fraction has an x minus 7 that the first fraction doesn't have. So we're going to need to add that to the first fraction. So I can probably just do that in this same step. I'll just scooch this over a little bit. The first one needs to have x minus 7 added to it. So I'm going to multiply on top and bottom by x minus 7. Very good. Looks good. Actually, I'm going to do that in a second step. There's no reason to skip too many steps. It's a video you can watch for as long as you want. So let's just space it out and you fast forward through what you don't want to watch. This has a x minus 7 added to it. Now the denominator is going to have an x minus 6 and the x minus 7. The second fraction doesn't change. Now what do we do? Well, we need to multiply through here, and then pause the video and think about what this negative is going to do to us. What happens? What's our problem? Well, it's going to multiply through by everything on top of the second fraction. So what you should do is think about it like brackets, and this negative gets distributed throughout. You multiply by negative 1, also known as change the sign of all the things inside that top. So what am I left with? It's 3 times x and 3 times negative 7 minus 5 plus 2x squared. Notice that these signs are because of that whole minus thing going on. The bottom is the same now. This is x minus 6, x plus 7. Cancel or simplify terms on top. So look at your squareds first, just to go in order. I can see a 2x squared. There's no other x squareds, so I have 2x squareds. Look for all your x's. I only have a 3x. So plus 3x. The numbers, however, do simplify. 21 and 5 come together to make 26, so negative 26. On bottom, nothing to do. All right, and that is how it's done. That top, that numerator, looks like maybe it could factor. You can give it a shot, try a slide divide on it, and I think you'll find that it's prime, so it can't be factored out, it can't be canceled. So let's move on to the next. What do we have? Let's just check our answer. Was this correct? Yeah, all right. 1 for 1, baby. Let's keep going. Hopefully you got that too. We're in this together. Anything you can't understand, we'll go back through later, okay? Make sure that you always keep in contact with me. What do we got? Let's factor this. It's an addition. We're going to need an LCD. Okay? Eventually we're going to need an LCD to work this out. But for now, let's try to factor. This is the difference of squares, x plus 2 and x minus 2. That's our first fraction. Second fraction, can't do anything with the 5. The bottom, 4x plus 8, looks like I can pull out a common factor of 4. That leaves me with x plus 2. All right, so far so good. Now I can't add them as they are. I need to figure out my LCD. Hopefully you're getting slightly more confident with the LCD. Numbers first, then groups of letters. First things first, I see a 4 here. I do not see a 4 over here. Lowest common multiple, definitely 4. All right, or 4. What's next? I see x plus 2. I see x minus 2. Let's go one by one. X plus 2, I see a group of 1 here. I see a group of it once here. So x plus 2 is part of my common denominator, and I only write it once. The last missing piece of the puzzle, x minus 2, that's going to go down as part of my common denominator as well. So this is my LCD. Now we need to add what's missing to each piece. The first one already has an x plus 2, it has an x minus 2, it's just missing 4. So I'm going to multiply on top and bottom by 4. 4 and 4. On 5 I already had, on top I already had a 5. On bottom I already had this. So if you wanted to, you could have written a 20 here. It's no big deal. On the bottom here, in the second fraction, what do I have? 4, x plus 2. I'm missing an x minus 2. I don't have an x minus 2 here. So I need to add it. So I'm going to multiply by that on top and bottom. Hopefully this is becoming more familiar to you, what I'm about to do. Simplify the top and then group the top. All right? Simplify each, so I have 4 times 5, and I have 5x times 5 times x and 5 times negative 2, and I'm going to do all that on the top. So 4 times 5 is 20. 5 times x is 5x. 5 times negative 2 is negative 10. And notice that I have a positive here, so I don't need to do anything fancy with the multiplication. I don't need to change any signs. On bottom, just keep it the way it is, all right? Don't mess with that. It's never going to make your life easier to mess with it. The top is what we should be focusing on. Now, the top, can it simplify? Well, yeah, for sure. I have a 5x, and I have 20 minus 10, so minus 10. 5x minus 10. On bottom, x plus 2, x minus 2. Just the difference of squares. And then we should see if we can do any factoring. Once we've simplified, so maybe I'll make this clear, the top, simplify first, and then if you can, factor one last time to see if anything cancels. Because this is pretty suspicious. Maybe we can factor something out. Always try one last ditch attempt at factoring. Okay? So 5x minus 10, you can pull a common factor of 5 outside. That leaves us with x minus 2. And now we've got that bugger. We got that factor that we wanted to get rid of. Here we go. Cancel, cancel. 5 on top. 4, x plus 2. That's a nice small fraction compared to what we started with. So instead of a group of 2 things, looking a bit complicated, we've made it into something much nicer to look at. And we did get the answer. Okay, so 2 for 2. If you got that yourself, excellent, excellent job. Now, third one looks like a doozy, but let's just take it piece by piece, okay? Let's cut it into groups, chunk it up, and see what we can do, all right? The final answer looks like it's something tiny, 14x squared. How the heck are we going to get that? Well, let's dive in and see what's going to happen. Notice that we have a multiplication and we have a division. The first thing you should be thinking about if you don't see a plus or a minus is you've got no LCD needed. It's not plus or subtract. What do we do when we do fractions with multiplication and division? What do we do? Well, normally when we see a division, what we should do is keep, flip. So I'm going to take this piece here. I keep saying keep, flip because I think it rolls off the tongue better. It's actually keep, flip, flip. So that's what I'm going to do first. I'm going to leave that first fraction just like it is. You could factor it now if you wanted to. I'm just going to choose not to so that I show more steps. Again, feel free to factor it right now. I'm going to keep this one because this is part of my group that I want to do keep, flip, flip on. And I'm going to flip that flip the sign, and I'm going to flip the fraction. And now I've got what looks very intimidating, but hopefully you can see that if we take it piece by piece, it's not that bad. We just need to factor everything. Like we're going to factor like it's going out of style here. So the first one here, it's an a equals 1 form, so I can factor it directly. It's a trinomial, right? The second on here, can't factor. This one here looks like I'm going to be able to pull out a common monomial. The bottom one here, this looks like it's also an a equals 1 trinomial, which means I can do it directly. Common monomial here, and that definitely looks like another a equals 1 trinomial, which I can do directly. Now that I've got that done, or at least now that I've got my plan of action, I can start doing the factoring. So pause the video here, see if you can get all those factors. It's honestly not even that difficult. It just looks complicated. So take your time and come back here when you're ready to check your answers. I'm just going to go through the factoring. So two numbers that multiply to make 8, -6, it's -4, -2. Bottom can't be factored. Next, common monomial of 7 and x cubed. That leaves us with an x plus 1. The bottom, 28 and 11, how do you make that? It's x minus 7 and x minus 4. Some of you might write x minus 4, x minus 7, that makes no difference. Same thing. Here, common monomial, take a 2 outside, got x squared minus a 7. And bottom, that's a trinomial. Two numbers that multiply to make -2 and add to make -1. What is it? It's a -2 and a +1. Now this is my favorite part. Cancel everything that's common to top and bottom. Just look at the whole top as one big thing. Look at the whole bottom. Cancel anything you see on top and bottom, okay? Let's do it. X minus 4, I see it here and here. X minus 2, here and here. 7, I don't see a 7 anywhere. I'm going to mix the 7 and 2 later though. What about x cubed? Well, I have 3 on top, 2 on bottom. I can cancel 2 of them, cancel both of them on bottom. What about x plus 1? X plus 1 on top and bottom. And let's see, anything else? Let's get one new color. Orange. X squared, wait a second. X squared minus 7, where's that squared coming from? Okay, I see what I did. I made a little mistake, just wasn't careful enough when I rewrote it. There's an 14x squared, 14x, which means when I take the common monomial outside, what I should have ended up with was 2x and then x minus 7. So once again, a little careless. That was my mistake. I'm just going to clear things up a little bit. But if you tried that yourself, you probably noticed along the way that I made a mistake. Sorry about that. And now that'll cancel. We have an x minus 7 and x minus 7, top and bottom. So that cancels out. And all we're left with is 7x and 2x. That gives us 14x squared, which is the same as what I started with. It wasn't going to be because of the mistake that I made, but we got there in the end. And again, I'm human, you're human, we're all human. Unless you're a robot, but I don't think you are. Most of you are probably not robots. Anyway, that's how you do these. So let's look at the commonalities. First question was subtraction. If it's subtraction, you need the LCD. If you need the LCD, you got to factor first, get the LCD, and then do all your grouping and simplifying. Second one was an addition. Exact same steps, except you don't have that pesky minus mucking up the works. So that's how that one worked out. The last one doesn't have an add or a subtract. It only has multiply and divide, which means we don't need LCD, but we do need to do our regular rules for multiply and divide. It's the first thing that you should absolutely do, and maybe I should have written this along the way, is definitely factor everything first. And by first, I mean before you move on to doing any simplifying. You factor and then onto the simplification. Don't try multiplying through first. It's going to just be a nightmare. All right, that's it for this worksheet. I hope that you found it useful, assuming that you were here to watch it in the first place. And we'll see you in the next lesson. Have a great day.